So let's talk about Trevor Lawrence, and not more so about is he a good quarterback or not. I kind of want to focus on the label he had coming out of college when he was part of the very rare special group of dubbed generational talents coming out, and really there's only up there at four with starting with John Elway, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, and we have Trevor Lawrence. Now there might be some that could be questioned. I don't know. I'm not sure if you would put Dan Marino in that conversation. And maybe there's a few others I'm missing. We'll see about next year with Caleb Williams if he still has, or for this upcoming draft, I should say, if he still has that generational label on him. But right now, looking it up and stuff like that, the four that's considered generational was what I named: Elway, Manning, Luck, and Lawrence. And I want to focus on that label really because ever since on Sunday, the brutal loss they had to San Francisco, 34-3, offense looked horrible. Lawrence not looked good. People are already starting to question Trevor Lawrence. And I think it's more going to an overreaction with him as a player, but there definitely is concerns with him. So this initially started, and why I kind of started the video was seeing this posted by NFL Notifications. It says Trevor Lawrence stats through 3 seasons. Now, mind you, once again, this is his not full 3 seasons so far. Has played 43 career games thus far. We'll see how he does for the rest of the remaining few games. But through 3 seasons, 9,874 passing yards, or 229 yards per game, 46 touchdowns, 31 interceptions, 84.6 passer rating. Considering the high expectations he came out into the league with, is it too early to label him as a bust? And quickly just looking before I get to that, and looking at, once again, he posted another thing as well. He says if Trevor Lawrence continues to play this poorly, he will finish the 2023 season with 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 93 passer rating. At this point, all right, we have to point the same conversation as we had with Baker Mayfield. And I think these were kind of posted November 12th, and okay, 1 or 2 days apart. I thought this was like a few days ago prior to that, but you see the way the 2023 season's panning out for him if it keeps continuing. Only 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions for a generational talent, one of the top quarterbacks supposedly. And it's a little bit concerning when people are starting to write at one point is in the same conversation as the next Baker Mayfield. Very concerning. And for this one, just scrolling down. Another thing to pop up too is this was kind of shown up as a surprise. Looking at the stats thus far this season, Baker Mayfield has had a better season. I mean, it might be crazy to say, and a lot of people definitely want to bash Baker Mayfield for not panning out in Cleveland and just being a bust and overrated for being the first overall pick. But he's playing better with, we could probably say, a worser team than him. I mean, you could definitely go back and forth to whether Baker has better weapons with him having Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as his two top receivers versus Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. If you want to label those two, wherever you want to debate who has the better core. But you would probably say that Trevor Lawrence has the better team overall than Baker Mayfield. And the fact that he has Baker Mayfield's having kind of a quiet, good season, it is a little bit worrisome. And kind of getting to what I wrote for Trevor Lawrence, I said it's a tough conversation. Not going as far as to say a bust, but hasn't lived up to the generational status. And I think that's what the more of a conversation I want to have is the generational part of it as opposed to being a bust, because I can just come out, I'll flat out and say that I think he is a good quarterback. I don't think it was a mistake for the Jacksonville Jaguars to select him. They had to, really, and he's definitely been the best quarterback they've had for a long time. And you've seen that from last year in the second half of the season in the playoffs. He had a very rough wild card game against the Chargers, but he helped lead them back to win and went head to head with the Chiefs really in the divisional round. And so far, they have a good record this year. I mean, I think at this point they're 6-3, if I'm not mistaken, with the 49ers loss. But yeah, you look at the stat wise, and it's very concerning. Again, if you're looking through the lens of generational, because thus far he's having an average season at best. If you really look at it, 2,120 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That is. Again, if you're looking through the lens of what he was coming out to be, generational, transcendent, whatever you want to put him as, and putting that elite category, what we just talked about with Elway, Manning, and Luck, he hasn't lived up to that. And that's why I realize I don't think he's lived up to the generational status. I don't want to go, if you're going to call him a bust because of that, then I can understand that. But if we're just saying, just in general, is he a bad player? I don't think he is. I mean, last year in the second half of the season, I think he really picked it up. And last year, he had a solid second season compared to his rookie year. You can blame that on Urban Meyer if you want. Definitely seems pretty valid. But last year, he had over 4,000 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And people, praised him for that. I thought it was a good season, especially in the second half. He was, I think, I don't know if it was Pro Football Focus or whoever, I think he was rated as one of the best, if not the best quarterbacks through the second half of the season. And he played like that. And so far this season, with the talent he has, and more talent offensively, getting Calvin Ridley, who's played, I think, pretty good. Definitely a big help for him on the receiving core. He only has 9 touchdowns through 9 games. I mean, only a touchdown a game. In the interceptions, it's definitely not. It's not Josh Allen-esque or anything like that, where it's 11 interceptions or anything like that. But again, it does look concerning. So I mean, for the conversation, yes. I mean, I basically just once again just summed it up from what I have here. He's not a bust. Again, I think he is a good quarterback. He is a solid quarterback. But I will agree with the crowd, whatever you want to say, the noise, that no, he hasn't. And Richard Sherman put this out too, that he doesn't see, the tape doesn't lie, that he doesn't see that as well. I agree with that, where I haven't seen generational. I'm sorry. I've seen a solid quarterback, a good quarterback, but I don't see generational. When I think of generational, I think of Patrick Mahomes, obviously, what he can do, the talents, the insane plays that he can make. That's generational right there. That is unbelievable what he can do and what he's accomplished. That should be, and that label's already put on him. But of course, it wasn't coming out of college. No one expected Mahomes to be how he is now. But looking at it in terms of his NFL career, he has been generational. But for Trevor Lawrence, he's been solid. He's been at times great, but nothing crazy. There's not any plays or anything like that, or maybe a signature game where he's really come out and just wowed people. I mean, he's done his job. Again, team's winning, they're having success, but he's not all that he was made to be. Like I mean, at one point in college football, we were having a discussion of, after his winning the Heisman his freshman year, was he going to be the best quarterback of all time in college football? People thought he was going to win multiple championships, maybe win a Heisman or multiple Heismans. Even as far as say that people thought that he was NFL ready out in his rookie year, if he was eligible to do that. Of course, in the NCAA rules, you have to play at least 3 years, or up to a certain age, of course. And people thought at 18 years old, he could have been easily a top pick coming out of the college just because of that season. And for right now, we haven't seen the Clemson Trevor Lawrence. We've seen a good Trevor Lawrence, a good quarterback, no doubt a franchise one, but not on the level of, again, when I look at transcendent or generational, I see that in Mahomes. I haven't seen that. Or if you want to say for Aaron Rodgers, how he's played, how his success as a player. I mean, we can all bash on what we want about the Super Bowls and all that, but talent-wise, yes, he is. I mean, some people say that, Shannon Sharp and others say he's the best pure throw of the football. Some people would say Dan Marino. But again, I just haven't seen that. And it kind of just wrap up the video real quick. Not want to say real quick, but just I want to put out some stats when we just talked about Elway, Manning, and Luck. I want to compare him Lawrence through for everyone else's first 3 seasons NFL. Now, take it as you will. If this helps or hurts Trevor's argument of generational, I just want to put this out there because I don't think it's really getting talked too much. So we're gonna be comparing again the first 3 seasons of all the quarterbacks I talk about for generational status. Now the numbers are a little bit skewed because Lawrence hasn't played a full 3 seasons, but I just want to compare and kind of just shed some light into, were the other quarterbacks consider that as well after their first few seasons. So we're gonna start in order of latest to earliest. So we're gonna start with John Elway. Out of the 1983 class, he only played 42 games in the first 3 years, missed 5 games in his first season, 1 game in the second season, played a full season in his third. So 83 to 85. There's the stats up there, and I kind of added it up. In 42 games, he had 8,152 yards, 47 touchdowns, 52 interceptions, a 52.6 completion percentage, and a 67.2 passer rating. And he had a 27-13 record in those 3 seasons. Now, this can kind of be, the excuse can be, well, this was a different era back then. It was a different type of football back then when you look at the interceptions. And it's definitely high up there. I mean, we bashed Josh Allen and others for high turnover status, but you look at Elway, 14 interceptions in his first year, 15 in his second year, 23 in his third year. But again, the excuse that kind of gets thrown is, well, it was a different type of football. It was a different time, a different era of football. Throwing wasn't the dominant thing back then, so we kind of put an excuse on that, or whatever you want to call it. But that's what his stats are. He had more interceptions and touchdowns in his first 3 years. The completion percentage was awful at 52.6. Passer rating was 67.2, but the record-wise was good. I mean, 27-13 is a solid start. Now we're going to move to Peyton Manning, 1998. Again, first 3 years, 1998 to 2000. In the 48 career games, played all 3 seasons fully. 12,287 yards, 85 touchdowns, 58 interceptions, a 60.4 completion percentage, an 85.5 passer rating, a 26-22 record. Now, even more than what Elway had, if you look at the interceptions, his first year, 28 interceptions. That's insane. And he'll probably by far hold the record for most interceptions by a rookie in their first year. So no doubt that that's a record that he'll have for probably the rest of his life and probably for the rest of the NFL, because it's going to be very tough to surpass that. Definitely cut back on it, but still pretty high. 15 interceptions in his second and third year. Again, maybe the label can get thrown out there as it was a different era of football, different time of football, even though it's a little more recent than what Elway has. But again, more interceptions. Now for this one, he had 85 touchdowns through the first 3 years, 26, 26, and 33. And then 26-22 win-loss record. Not great, kind of a few games just over 500 as opposed to 27-13 when John Elway was, but it took a long time. And mind you, Manning didn't win his first Super Bowl. He didn't even make it to a Super Bowl until 8 years. I mean, you look at, he's been in the league for, count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I think it was 05. I think it was 05 or 06, so 8 or 9 years when they played Chicago. It took him a long time to get there. It definitely was. I mean, I don't know what the talks was, or back then, for how analysts and people perceived Manning at that time. If there was conversations of is he generational? Can he do this? Can he get over the hump? Now, mind you, of course, in that span, he won a couple MVPs, so it definitely helped his case a little bit. But kind of sticking back to the getting off topic, but for the first 3 seasons, that's what his stats were. And now we get to Andrew Luck. 2012. Again, for this one, played all 3 seasons fully. In 48 career games, he had, in his first 3 years, 12,957 yards, 86 touchdowns, 42 interceptions, a 58.6 completion percentage, 86.3 passer rating, and a 33-15 record. Fantastic by far, so far what we've seen, even when we get to Lawrence, real quick. Fantastic. You look at his second year, or his third year, 40 touchdowns in his third year. 40 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. You look at the interception thing, or column, high in his first year. 18 interceptions, definitely high. Then he drops it down to 9 in his second year and up to 16 in his third year. But you look at touchdowns, 23, and made a huge jump to 40. Definitely by far, when you look at the first 3 years, the best by any. I mean, just under 13,000 passing yards, clears the interceptions, or the touchdown interception rate, a lot better than what the other two have. 58.6, definitely concerning with the completion percentage. His first year, 54.1, 60.2, 61.7. So he definitely brought it up. It definitely got better. His best year by far was his last year in the NFL in 2018 with 67.3. But you could see overall that he wasn't a high completion player. I mean, if you look at the standard now, we think if you're in the low 60s, that's horrible. You need to be at the mid to high 60s or low 70s. So if you're looking at it from the lens now, not great at completion percentage, but again, overall, I think he did an amazing job, especially the record, 33-15, when the other guys were. I mean, it's better than Elway. I want to say it clears Elway, but a few games more. Now again, that's 6 games more than Elway. So I guess if you try and even it out, it does. Or you try and scale it out to 48 for Elway. Does he get close? Is he closer to 33? There's a good shot, but looking at how it stands right now, 33 and 15, amazing. And now we get to, once again, Trevor Lawrence. His first 3 years, and you kind of saw the stats we showed you, the only ones we didn't see was completion and record. He had in 3 years so far in 43 games, not complete yet, but in 43 games, 9,874 yards, 46 touchdowns, 31 interceptions, a 63.8 completion percentage, 84.6 passer rating, 18 and 25 record. So by far has the worst record, lowest wins so far as the first 3 years, when the lowest before that's 26. Completion percentage for the first 3 years is the best out of the three thus far. Again, Elway had 52, Manning had 60, and Luck had 58. So clears them there. Passer rating on par with everyone else. Elway had the worst at 67, but again, remind you, Luck had 86, Manning had 85, and Lawrence has 84. So on par with everyone else. Touchdowns, definitely the worst of them, though if we kind of let the rest of the season unfold, he's definitely going to pass Elway, because Elway had 47 touchdowns, Lawrence has 46. So at the end of the year, the stats will be different, wins, loss, completion, all that, but looking at just thus far having the conversation, he is under Elway, but he'll clear that, no doubt. So you look at the other two, 86 and 85, lacking in that one. Interceptions is the best out of all of them, 42, 58, 52. And once again, record-wise, that's the big killer, 18 and 25, though if you want to give him the pass because of Urban Meyer, you could. But that's kind of going to sum it up right there. I just wanted to add that last bit for the stats to really kind of put in perspective before we kind of criticize Trevor Lawrence. And again, being honest and being transparent, I do agree with that. I haven't seen transcendent, I haven't seen generational as he was labeled coming out of college, but I want to add that perspective towards at the end of the discussion to kind of show you, like, yes, he may not be generational right now. Could he potentially be? Yes, there's a chance, but I want to shed light on the other guys where, hey, you look at the stat wise and what they've done. Some of these guys didn't have great stats to begin with. I mean, maybe in more, it kind of comes down to an eye test with, you look at John Elway, how he played, the arm strength and so forth. You saw that. Peyton Manning, how he played Luck. So it might just come down to more so just an eye test and how they look, how they play. But if you're just looking at stat wise, we're kind of criticizing Lawrence because of that. You should also look back at some of the other guys too, and was it as good, or was it really that much better than Lawrence? So I just want to throw out there if that helps or hurts Lawrence in the generational debate, whether if he's good or not. I just wanted to throw that in there for the end of the discussion. But once again, I mean, regardless of how you feel, definitely, I think we can all agree that Trevor Lawrence hasn't lived up to that status. We'll see what he can do for the remainder of the season and kind of moving forward if he can live up to that. But again, I don't agree with the bust status where people are kind of criticizing him for that. I don't buy that. I think he's a good quarterback. Just right now, I don't see generational.